Hey folks, this week Monday and Tuesday we won't have live class, so I wanted to post this video for you. Just as a review before you take the next quiz on Wednesday. If the equation is in standard form, how do you find the vertex? Well, that's when you take negative b divided by 2a and get the x-coordinate and plug that in for all the x's in the equation and get the y-coordinate. The other names for the x-intercepts when you're solving a quadratic equation or finding the x-intercepts are the roots, the solutions, and the zeros. And then the four ways to solve a quadratic are by graphing, factoring, square rooting, and then the quadratic formula. Which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And that'll either give you two solutions, one solution, or no solutions if you get a negative under that radical. That's supposed to be an a there for formula. And then when you write solutions, and in delta math, you put the solutions or the x-intercepts in brackets. And so when you're entering solutions in delta math, you enter the first solution and then you hit that plus sign, it'll give you another blank and it'll have brackets around it. So you enter both solutions. So when you have a quadratic and you have it factored, so I have y equals and then I have two factors. When you set each of those factors equal to 0, and solve for x, then that gives you the solutions or the x-intercepts. And so that would be where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So if you're asked to solve by factoring, you put both or everything on one side. So you'd end up with 4x squared minus 1 equals 0. Now, since you have that and it says solve by factoring, this would represent the difference of two squares. So you take and square root the 4x squared and you get 2x. Square root 1 and you get 1 being positive and then negative. And then you could set each of those factors equal to 0 and solve for x. So you'd subtract 1 and divide by 2. So you'd get x equals negative 1/2. Here you'd add 1 and then divide by 2. So you'd x equals positive 1/2. So when you write the answers, you'd have 1/2 and negative 1/2, sometimes written like this, plus or minus 1/2. When you solve by square rooting, you want to isolate the square. So the first thing you do is subtract 27. Then you divide by 5. Then you square root. And when you square root, you got to make sure that you include the positive and the negative. So you'd have x minus 7 equals positive 1 and x minus 7 equals negative 1. So you'd add 7, giving you x equals 8 and x equals 6. So then you'd put those in brackets, 8 and 6 for the x-intercepts. And it doesn't matter, the order doesn't matter how you write them. When you're solving using the quadratic formula, again, you have to solve, put everything on one side. So you'd have 3x squared plus 11x plus 4. So then you'd have a equals 3, b equals 11, and c equals 4 to put into the formula. So you take the negative of b, so negative 11 plus or minus square root of 11 squared minus 4 times 3 times 4 over 2 times 3. And then you can see that that's going to be two solutions. What I suggest is you figure out what the discriminant is first. And that's the part under the radical. Okay, and so if I take 11 squared minus 4 times 3 times 4, I get 73. So what I have here is negative 11 plus or minus root 73 over 6. And that's actually two answers. Negative 11 plus root 73 over 6 and negative 11 minus root 73 over 6. And you don't simplify it further because there's not a perfect square that goes into 73. And then just as a review quick on the quiz on Wednesday, simplifying radicals means you're taking out the highest perfect square that goes into that number. So this would be 16 times 10, which you'd write as 4 root 10. And anytime you have a negative, you take I out. So that'd be 25 times 6, so you'd get 5i root 6. So for that quiz that you're going to take, or that's available for you to take on Wednesday, you're going to solve by factoring 5 of those. Remember, put your answers in brackets so you don't write x equals. And as long as you show your work, if you get it wrong in Delta Math, but you showed your work correctly, you'll get full credit. And then simplifying radicals, there's 2 of those where there'll be a perfect square to take out. And then simplifying radicals with a negative underneath, there's 3 of those. So you're going to be going to Delta Math and not joining the meet because I won't be there, and work on those assignments and then do quiz number 2 on Wednesday is when it's available. What is this puzzle? This is not me right now, but I'm on top of the world. So reach out if you have questions.